so everyone has a chance to speak and be heard. I'll take a list of people who have risen their hands and we'll just go in that order.
You really can't do much more until all this stuff gets cleared out.
The recycling center started moving all of their infrastructure out of here yesterday and they weren't able to finish. So they'll be back tomorrow around noon to continue moving out some of these green shipping containers, some planter beds, and some of their infrastructure that was left behind. And as that happens, this space here that used to be the recycling center can be turned into a steward's village, somebody who takes care of land or takes care of a garden. They would also be people that can guide people through the ecology center and show them where the books are, where seeds and tools are, where they can plant into gardens if they want to grow food here on site, where they can start seeds in the greenhouse, where they can get free soil and compost and mulch. We'll set up a small village here to keep people sheltered. On this back corner behind me will just be the public interface for the ecology center, so neighbors can walk in and they can access tools and seeds.
We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. My guitar is a little loud.
I guess I'll just open the conversation.
Have a conversation about different ways to respond to police.
There's different visions of what it could look like when the sheriff comes on the 3rd or whenever they do come. The one that stands out most in my mind is what Poncho highlighted when he came here for the first day of the Human Being on September 14th, 3-day gathering that we had in Golden Gate Park with workshops and skill shares and music. Poncho has been a longtime activist in the Bay Area. When he said when he came here and saw 300 people sharing in food and music and workshops, meditation, yoga in this space, was that this was his vision of what disobeying with great love looked like. That's the most effective thing for the sheriff to see when he walks in on the 3rd, is many people engaging in this space, planting, learning things, teaching each other, engaging with the resource center is harder to evict than people chaining themselves to entrances or blockading doors.
Do you suggest as a collective that we let them inside the ecology center?
If the police come and they don't seem like they're getting ready to hurt people, meaning they're not like in riot gear, then yeah, we should, because we're here to make sure that's an open space for the neighborhood and for the whole community to be able to participate with each other in. We're not trying to occupy it for ourselves and close it off. We're trying to make sure it's open and accessible, and therefore I think that everyone should be able to be in this space.
I definitely love the idea of keeping it open and not getting in any altercations with the police at all. Last time we had kind of like a liaison committee which did communications with the Parks and Rec, and that worked really well. I think maybe we should try and talk about nominating some person or a group of people to do that again. In September, Kelly and the Parks and Rec, they got along really well, and it was a good way for us to kind of discuss as a group and then go back to the police, not really comply as soon as they come walking in. What are they going to say next? You can't have tents, you can't have sound, you can't have a good time, you can't have a garden. What's the course of action once things go south?
Police came on the first day of the Human Being on September 14th. They saw there were like 300 people in this space listening to classical music, and farmers that have farmed in San Francisco for 40 years give workshops. The next 2 days we spent near the Beach Chalet soccer fields in this concrete graveyard. We had tents. We were never told we couldn't have tents, and we believe that's because that space is out of eyesight from anyone, whereas this one wasn't. So it's mostly about them keeping up appearances that there isn't a tenting type thing going on.
A good job was done last time. It does take a special person who could balance staying strong and like not just like be like, okay, we'll do that. They're just liaison. They're not empowered to like make decisions for us. They're just liaising information, so it makes it easier.
Individuals can't make a decision for the group. No one has any more decision-making power than anyone else. When a police officer comes and says, who's in charge here? The group's in charge, and if you want to address us, you'll have to address us as a collective. You can talk to the police liaison, and that person can communicate to the group rather than the police having to do it themselves.
You guys saying that San Francisco Police Department is love and peaceful. I just watched a man sleeping at the Civic Center. Everybody said, the police came in and said, get up and move. Everybody got up and move. This man could not get up and move because he was a little bit intoxicated. I don't care. Boom, boom. So does that give them a reason to beanbag them 4 times? No.
No.
It does not. We could have helped that man up and moved him. They are not calm and peaceful. We are calm and peaceful.
The SFPD has been confiscating blankets from kids in the park, saying that they need to do that as evidence of them sleeping in the park. So not only are they ticketing kids and potentially taking them to jail for being homeless or sleeping in the park, but they're taking their blankets and then leaving them on the street cold. And that relates to the larger issue of the gentrification of this neighborhood, which is a big reason why the recycling center is being evicted, because the business improvement district and people like this would like to see this neighborhood not have people pushing shopping carts of cans and bottles around, even though homeowners and renters do the same thing.
About the sheriff coming on the 3rd. One of the things the sheriff can do in an eviction proceeding is come and lock the door. We should think beforehand to find out, if we can, through various safe channels, of what he intends to do.
Yeah, so I'm going to go talk to him tomorrow.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Before 2 o'clock, we'll have a
Okay, so you know,
rough
and
idea.
I believe
Tomorrow's the 2nd, so we'll have about 24 hours.
yeah, I can see. With the cops, you say you got 15 minutes to get your stuff out of here. That's what they've always done with us in the past. Is that right, occupiers? If there's going to be civil disobedience, they say you got to go, and people have decided to do it, could just sit down in a peaceful way.
So Kyle, would you like to state the proposal?
I propose that we elect one person or a group of people to liaise with the police, sheriffs, or park and rec for any kind of matters when they come and address us as a group or ask any questions or have any demands. I think the real question is voting the person who wants to be the liaison.
Yeah, somebody proposed Kelly.
I just wanted to get back to like why we are here. There's a lot of work to be done here, and I'd love to like just get my hands dirty, think about brainstorm projects, maybe a kid space, extending the seed library and the tool lending library.
The greenhouse, we can work on starting seeds in that so that when people come from the community, we actually have started plants to give them to take home. Putting seeds in little pots with soil is a good activity. People want to try to find books on Craigslist or on the street or anywhere about urban homesteading, permaculture, organic gardening, sustainability. Another huge project is that we took down the wood around the garden beds. Yesterday, the last day of 2012, plants like to communicate with each other through their roots, share nutrients and share functions. Those walls are really separating those plants from being able to communicate, just like the walls of our houses and our apartments separate us from being able to communicate. It's filling in more soil around the beds, looking at what plants are there and trying to find companion plants to plant near them. Onions and garlic are often planted because they're a pest confuser. They give off strong scents, so pests that would usually eat a crop might not if there's garlic and onions planted near them. A good example of this is like the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash. Corn is grown in the center. It acts as a stalk for the beans to grow up. The beans fix nitrogen, take nitrogen out of the air and put it into the soil for the corn and the squash. And then the squash acts as a shade. So it shades the roots and it shades the soil from having too much water absorbed by the sun. So each plant does something for the other.
There's contaminated soil here.
There used to be a train yard here to connect a train that went from the beach to here with a train that went from here to other spaces in the city. And so there's idea that there's lead contamination. Certain plants and mushrooms are good at accumulating things like heavy metals and breaking down hydrocarbons like oils and either getting rid of them themselves through their own processes or absorbing them so you can remove the mushrooms or the plants off-site and the metals and the other toxins go with it.
Do we have any interest in possibly trying to do some kind of like local pushback politically and through the media to call some media out here and say, look at what we're doing, the city's going to waste $120,000 taxpayers' money when we're actually creating a permaculture ecology center right now without any of that money being wasted?
We have 2 groups that are working. We are cleaning this space, which, God, you guys are amazing. It's practically perfect. Our next phase is setting up space for music. Our second group working is cleaning up the garden and ecology space. We are turning that into exclusively farming, seed, library, tool library, and really just cleaning the tar out of it.
I have a medic pack that's ready because I won't be here. So if you guys want to get medics prepared or anything, just let me know. Are you guys up for that? Or
Can I direct the response?
yeah.
So there's a white cabinet that we're cleaning out over there. So it's really sterile and clean. And we have a bunch of medical supplies, and we'll be putting that in the back of that white structure over there.
I'm willing to volunteer to do medic stuff if anyone needs any help with wounds.